Hello, good afternoon to everyone. My pranam to Swami Mahayoganandaji, Swami Sarvapriyanandaji, my fellow devotees and friends. Okay, the parable that's given to me by Swami Mahayoganandaji is rather fishy, although it has a fragrance of flower in it. So, without sounding too much like a riddle, let me dive straight into the fable. So this fable actually was narrated by M. Mohendranath Gupta, the recorder of Gospel of Ramakrishna, to Keshav Chandra Sen at the Dakshineshwar temple actually. A little background on Keshav Chandra Sen. Keshav was a Bengali philosopher and a social reformer who attempted to incorporate Christian theology within the framework of Hindu thoughts. He founded the breakaway group of Brahmo Samaj of India with a central belief that only Christian doctrine would bring new life to Hindu society. Like they say that the opposite poles attract each other, he got attracted to Sri Ramakrishna through Thakur's teachings later in his life. Consequently, Keshav took a sharp detour in his practice and philosophical approach and started visiting Dakshineshwar Kali temple very frequently. On one such day, Keshav came with his followers at the temple. They conglomerated in the Panchavati with Thakur's other disciples, including M, and thought of spending the night together in discussions. And around 10 p.m., Keshav said, "I must go. I have some work to do." Just like, most of us, we think of spending the time in the company of, in holy company and good thoughts and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden we get reminded by something. So he says, "I must go, I have a work." So at that, M laughed. Mohendranath. No, over here it was narrated by M. So, is Thakur? Okay. So it could be Thakur, yeah, because it was said I laughed, so I kind of interpreted it as if. So Thakur laughed, and then he said, "Can't you sleep without the smell of the fish basket?" Now here, it kind of sounds fishy. That's why I said, And so the narration goes: Once a fishwife was a guest in the house of a gardener who raised flowers. She came there with her empty basket after selling fish in the market, and was asked to sleep in a room with flowers, where flowers were kept. You see, that was the guest room, and she was given that beautiful room, filled with flowers to sleep. But because of the fragrance of the flowers, she could not really get to sleep for a long time. Okay, her hostess saw her condition and said, "Hello, why are you tossing and turning so restlessly?" The fishwife said, "I don't know, friend. Perhaps the smell of the flowers has been disturbing my sleep. Can you give me back my fish basket? Perhaps that will put me to sleep." The basket was brought to her. She sprinkled water on it and set it near her nose. And then she fell sound asleep, snoring all night. Okay, so it's a funny kind of a fable. Sounds familiar, right? We seem to be no different from Keshav or the fishwife in our day-to-day life, caught up in the dead habits and worldliness. We remain in the Andhakupam, as they say, the dark well, thinking like the Kupa Manduka, the frog, like the dark well where it is confined, the frog is confined to, is the be-all and end-all of our existence. We get so used to our fish basket of worldly materialistic activities and our day-to-day jobs, which binds us to the same old habits and practices so much that we seldom find time to even smell the fragrance of the divine flower. Here, it appears to me as if that parable actually poses a question to us. Would we be contented with the fish basket hanging on our very nose, even outside our business hour when we have to earn money? It actually forces us to think about the situation and how to get rid of that fish basket, when we don't need it to, right? And substitute maybe the basket with the basket of flowers instead, so that we can progress in the path of God realization, self-realization. So with your permission and with the permission of the Thakur, maybe if we can extrapolate the parable a bit, it would perhaps sound like, so I actually came up with a little bit of a parallel parable. The next day, the fishwife had the dilemma. How come she could not sleep surrounded by the flowers in the night? Something that she cherished internally that would make her life outside the fishmongering very peaceful. She requested her gardener friend to let her sleep in the same bedroom surrounded by flowers for the next few months. Alas, she could not get any sleep for the first couple of nights, but she continued to force herself through her self-constructed austerity and discipline. She gradually started getting sleep. She started dreaming not of daily quarrels, hankering, bargaining in the fish market, but of beautiful things like walking in the flower fields, doing good things to her neighbors and the society, etc., etc. Our parallel parable ends here, really. But, like the fishwife, perhaps it's our duty to find our own ways to get rid of our fish basket that is hanging on our very noses and turn our lives a little bit more meaningful. We may monger fish to support our families, away from our jobs, but away from our jobs, we learn, we practice, and we progress in the path of the God and self-realization. That's how I kind of drew a little bit of a parallel parable, so that is where the whole thing ends. Thank you very much.